Hey, come see us on tour. We're going to be in Duluth, Georgia, outside of Atlanta, Jacksonville, Florida, Tempe, Arizona, and Burbank, California. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets. Bobby Kennedy went on, I call him Bobby. Bobby, it's like when people go on TV shows and they refer to Robert De Niro as Bobby. Bobby goes on Tucker Carlson, and he talks about the political realignment that's happening right now. Let's listen.
An endorsement like Abraham Lincoln's team of rivals, where we would be able to continue to differ publicly on issues.
He's talking about his endorsement of Trump, and he refers back to what Abraham Lincoln did with his cabinet of rivals. And that was very famously, Abraham Lincoln put people in his cabinet that were politically opposite than him. Right. And so he wanted to get all different. So that was a big deal. And so he's speaking of Trump doing the same thing.
But that we would, on the issues that we agree on, that we were going to strive to get into government together in order to make sure that those issues are the priority for our country. And, he was really good about that, and about, me being able to continue on. There's some issues. There's a lot of issues like the border where we agree, and, censorship, the wars, the neocons, forever wars, child health epidemics. Those are the most. So
that was, I've tried to explain to people when I saw Bobby give that speech at the Trump rally in Arizona. And there's got to be, 15,000, 20,000 Republican voters in there. And Bobby gives up and he gives us a speech about free speech, about ending the Ukraine war. He gives a speech about fighting big agra. He talks about getting the poison out of our food. He talks about environmental concerns. He talks about taking on the FDA and the USDA. And the crowd was cheering. And I said, it doesn't really matter if Trump is serious about doing that or not. I hope he is. But what's interesting is that these Republican voters are cheering that stuff. They're booing big corporations. They're cheering regulation. They're cheering cleaning up the corruption inside the FDA, the USDA. They're cheering on free speech, and they're cheering on ending a war and investing that money back in America. And I'm like, that's when I said, wow, they're to the left of Kamala Harris in the Democratic convention that I just left. So I just want to make that point because a lot of people have misinterpreted what I've said. So let's get back to this. So now he says this.
Important issues. There's other issues that I'm going to disagree on with President Trump, but he was happy with that. And that's how our country ought to be. We ought to be able to.
So what is this realignment that you mentioned at the outset? Because this does feel like it's bigger than just this November.
Yeah, there's been a series of these realignments throughout American history. And, there's history books that are written about, the realignments. I think there's about 5 of them. And one of those is clearly happening now because you see on so many issues, you've had an inversion. The Democratic Party has become the party of the elites. It used to be the party of the poor and the working class. In fact, there was a study that came out just recently that I saw that showed that 70%, that the people who voted for Biden own 70% of the wealth in this country. The people who voted for Trump own 30%. And so
I believe that.
Right. So you're seeing this realignment happen where the elites, where Wall Street, where the big tech, big pharma, the big banking houses are all now Democratic. And that the working class, the middle class, the cops, the firefighters, Sean O'Brien, the head of the Teamsters Union, spoke. That's a great guy, great guy. Really love him. But he spoke at the Democratic convention. The Republican convention rather than Democratic convention. So you're seeing this big.
So they're talking about a political realignment happening. I'd never even thought about it in that way. I knew that the Democrats had fully become the party of George Bush and Dick Cheney, except that they fight for gay rights, just like the CIA now says that they're fully woke, just like the military puts pride flags on their bombs. It's the same shit, right? And by the way, everybody likes gay people now. So I'm not gay, but the gay people I know feel just like the Jews I know in America. They feel very safe, very first-class citizen-y. And
it's about being,
what's that?
It's not, gay is like a straight white man just being regular gay.
Yeah, that's being regular. So my friend, I have gay white male friends, and they go, yeah, we're barely even in LGBTQ anymore. We're looked at because I'm cis, because he's a cis white male, but he's gay. It's like they don't even count us. Anyway, So what do you think about that, Kurt? Do you? I mean, I never thought I didn't. I'd like to go back and look up what the first 5 realignments were of the.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. Like, what was the last time with the Southern Strategy times? I guess.
Yeah, I'm going to guess when when Johnson, when he signed the Civil Rights Bill, he said, "I know I'm signing off the South for a generation," and so a lot of those blue collar Democrats, or a lot of those people who are Democrat, became Republican, because that's one that I can think of. I think I'm right about that. If I'm wrong, please correct me. I think maybe, did FDR have a political realignment? Did that happen? I don't know. But
I think every time, by the way, there's like all these real issues that people do have, and it's not that they were stupid every single time. It's that as soon as there's real issues, they generate a lot of like identity noise. And then it goes down the history books. It's like, oh, this is about race or whatever. And you guys are so, and I think like these problems have probably been here the whole time, and they just kind of pave over it by trying to create like, pick your strife, racial, drugs, whatever. And then it becomes about that. And we're supposed to forget about the problem. I think the problems have piled up too much to do that old trick again. You know,
it seems like that there's a populism happening. Trump was a populist. He ran, but then he governed basically as a regular Republican, except he didn't do wars.
70% of the wealth tells the whole thing.
But
the people that are Democrats have 70% of the wealth. So now you know the whole thing.
So that's
right there. Yeah.
If that's a true stat that he says, that is the whole game. 70% of the wealth. People who voted for Biden own 70% of the wealth in America, and the people who voted for Trump have 30. That is the game right there. So what usually happens is politicians don't lead a political realignment. What happens is the people shift, and then the politicians just have to become, they have to appeal to those people, right? So, like, now the Democrats are the party of war. People, they love it. They hate Putin, and they want war. And so their politicians reflect that. I mean, you saw Kamala Harris's speech she's a warmonger, and she's promising the most lethal fighting force in the world. That sounds right out of George Bush, Dick Cheney political convention, not a Democrat.
Shock and awe.
Yeah, that sounds like shock and awe. That sounds like all that stuff. There they are talking about, when have you ever heard Kamala Harris or a Democrat talk about the corruption inside the regulatory agencies? When have you ever heard that happen? That never happens.
All corruption came from Trump.
And so there is Bobby Kennedy talking about it at a Trump rally, and they're cheering. So
it's such a boutique item thing to be a Democrat. I mean, it's like, it really is like a what do you call it? Like I'm trying to think of a stupid brand, but like an expensive handbag of a thing. It's pure lifestyle and nothing else. There's no other part to it. And if you ask people, they can't tell you. They like, people feel strongly about it. It's why they like a brand. It's never an actual thing.
And people can't wrap their minds around this, Kurt. This is really, that's why I was trending yesterday. People, it bothers when I said that. Well, now look, they're Trump and Bobby Kennedy are way to the left of Kamala Harris. Another way to put it is Kamala Harris is way to the right now of the Republican Party. Even that's crazy, right? She's to the right of George Bush and Dick Cheney.
Well, she's whatever she's going to be told that she is.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know whatever her real feelings are. I mean, I really don't care. And also the people that run shit don't care. They're going to tell her what her feelings are, and then she's going to say them on the fly.
Yeah.
If you're lucky, if they can schedule an interview where she won't be asked any other questions off script.
Hey, come see us on tour. We're going to be in Duluth, Georgia, outside of Atlanta, Jacksonville, Florida, Tempe, Arizona, and Burbank, California. Go to jimmydore.com for a link for tickets.